Okay, good morning, guys. What we're going to look at today, just a little bit of revision on writing and solving equations. So we're looking at writing and then solving equations. And so the first part is the writing part, and then the second part is the solving part. So we've done a little bit of revision on the solving part, but it's important that you can take a word problem and turn it into an algebraic equation that you can then work through and solve. So the first thing we'll do is, so this will be an example of it. This will be a typical example of a question that you could be asked in relation to this. So when 3 is taken from 5 times a certain number, the result is the same as adding 6 to twice the number, find the number. Okay, so the first thing what you're trying to do is the whole idea is you're trying to find this unknown number. So the first thing what you want to do is you want to let the number be x. So x is unknown. Okay, so you let the number be x. Then what you do is you write everything else. Write everything else in terms of x. Okay, so what do we mean by that? So the first thing is you let the number be x. Okay, so and then you read this and you write everything else in terms of x. So when 3 is taken from 5 times a certain number. Okay, so then the next thing you're looking for is like, so 5 times a certain number. So that means 5 times means 5x. So you're saying, so the number is x. So when 3 is taken from 5 times a certain number, so then it's going to be 5x. Okay, that's the 5 times a certain number. And then when 3 is taken, so it's 5 times a certain number, but then you take 3 from it. So it's 5x minus 3. The result is the same as adding 6 to twice the number. So this is equal to, so this is the same as adding 6 to twice the number. So twice the number is going to be, if the number is x, twice the number is going to be 2x, and then adding 6 to that, plus 6. So what we've done is to write everything in terms of x, and then what you're doing then is what I've just done is just write out. So write out the equation. Okay, like what I've done here. So let's kind of just take this apart. So when 3 is added to 5 times a certain number. Okay, so this first part here, so 5 times a certain number. So remember, we're letting the number be x. 5 times a certain number represents this here, 5x. Okay, 5 times a certain number means 5 multiplied by that number. When 3 is taken from 5 times a certain number. So what we're seeing here is when 3 is taken from 5 times a certain number. So that's this part here, minus 3. So you're 5 times a certain number. The certain number you're letting be x, remember, like here. And then this part your mind is asking you to subtract 3. So the result of this is the same as adding 6 to twice the number. Okay, so adding 6 to twice the number. So if you think about, so you're adding, so twice the number, so this part here, this represents this, so twice the number means 2 multiplied by the number, and then you're adding 6, which is this part here. So add plus 6. So what you've done here is, so this is the writing part, okay? So let the number be x, so we've let the number be x, we can see that here. Write everything else in terms of x, so you read your your question here, and then you're writing everything in terms of x. So we can see 5x minus 3, that's represented when 3 is taken from 5 times a certain number. So when 3 is taken from 5 times a certain number, the result is the same as adding 6 to twice the number. So it's the same as adding 6, so this is the adding 6 bit to twice the number. Okay, so this first part is the same as this second part, so that's why you have the equal signs there. It means same. So then once you've written out your expression, or you've written out your equation, so write everything in terms of x, write out your equation, and then the last part then is just solve. So solve for x. So what you're doing then is the last part where you're solving, you're finding the number x. So let's work through this question then. So we're just using the algebra that we've learned. So what we want to do is, we see here, so it's 5x minus 3 is equal to 2x plus 6. What we want to do is we want to get the x's on the left hand side, and then once we have the x's on the left hand side, we want to get rid of all the numbers around the x and find out what that's equal to. So what we have here is we have 2x over here on the right hand side. So we want to get rid of this from the right hand side. So in order to get rid of it, we have to, in order to change this 2x to a 0, we have to minus 2x. Now if we minus 2x from this side, we have to minus 2x from this side. So remember, whatever we do on one side, whatever we do on the right hand side, for example, we have to do on the left hand side once this equal sign, when this equal sign is there. It's like having a balance. It's like having, let's say if you have a balance like this, okay, and then you have, so let's say you have a balance, something like that, and let's say on this side you have a number of blocks, let's say 3 green blocks, and then on this side you have 3 green blocks. So if you take, let's say if you take one of these green blocks, okay, sorry, this. So let's say you were to take this green block, one of these green blocks off here. So let's say you were to take this one here. What's going to happen is, if you don't take the same from this side, it's going to be unbalanced. So what's going to happen is, the scale is going to tip down this way, so it is, and it's going to become unbalanced. So in order to keep it balanced, what you need to do is, you need to, if you take one of the green blocks from this side, you have to take the other green block from this side as well. And then what happens is that leaves it nice and balanced then. So that's the whole principle behind this. When you take a number from one side, you have to take a number from the other side. So if we subtract, so what we have to do is we have to subtract 2 from this side and 2 from this side. So we've 2x here minus 2x. These two will cancel out. And then we have 5x minus 2x. So if we 5x, we've minus 2x, that leaves us with 3x. So 3x. So it's going to be 3x, and then we just bring down what we have. So we have minus 3 is equal to 6. So what we're doing is we're gradually bringing over the x's over here to the left hand side, and then we want to get the numbers over on the right hand side. So the next part then is, what we want to do is we want to get rid of the numbers that are around x. So we see here that we have this number minus 3. So what we want to do is we want to get rid of that. So if we're on minus 3 and we want to turn that to 0, we have to add 3. And again, if we add 3 on one side, we have to add 3 on the other side. So we have to add 3 here. So again, it's the same kind of principle here. If I was to add a red block to this side, for example, of the scale, and not do anything on this side, the scale is going to be unbalanced and it's going to tip over. So if I add a red block on the left hand side, I have to add a red block on the right hand side as well. So what happens then is, so minus 3 plus 3, so Okay, let's start on this side. So we have 6 plus 3, that's going to be equal to 9. Okay, we can write 9 down here. So we've minus 3 plus 3, these two will cancel out. And then that leaves you with 3x. So 3x is equal to 9. So now what we do is we look at this. Now notice that this here means 3 multiplied by, and I'll just write it, by x. Okay, so x is the variable. So what if we want to do something to this, we have to think of the opposite operation to multiplication. The opposite operation is division. Okay, just like here, like for example, with minus 3 here. So if it's minus, the opposite operation to that is plus. So we do the opposite of whatever operations at play. So we have 3 multiplied by x here. So what we want to do is we want to turn this 3 to a 1. So in order to turn it to a 1, we have to divide it by 3. So again, if we divide this side by 3, we have to divide this side by 3 to keep everything balanced. So what's going to happen is then that 3 will go into that once, 3 will go in there once. So this will be just x is equal to 9 divided by 3. So 3 will go into 3 once, 3 will go into 9 3 times. So x is equal to 3. So the number then, so your answer, so your number, the number is equal to 3. So again, this is just where, so what we've done is we've written out, we've taken a word problem and we've turned it into an algebra equation or expression, and then we went and we've solved for x. So we have. So that's basically how you write and solve equations. So it's pretty straightforward. Again, just as a quick revision then. So the first thing you do is let the number be x. So that's what we've done here. Write everything else in terms of x. So we write everything in terms of x. So like for example, this, and this. So we're writing everything in terms of x, as it's like you read the question and you write everything in terms of x. So that's that part. So write out your equation. So that's what we've done here. And then you're solving for x. So you're going through the steps here. And then you're solving for x here. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll do another 1 or 2 of these questions and I'll put them up for you as well, just so that you have a little bit more practice with it. Okay, thank you.